This is the final video in our report widget series. We're going to be talking about custom reports. These are by far the most complex of the reports Quincy offers. If you are not up for the challenge they represent, I strongly recommend you stick with the FTK or book reports. And if you need something that goes beyond what FTK and bookmark reports provides, just post it to the message board, and we will either include that capability in FTK or bookmark reports or send you a custom template you can use to utilize custom reports without having to spend the time to learn how to use them. That said, for those of you who are up for the adventure, I'm going to spend a little time introducing you to the basic concepts and some of the more simplistic capabilities, and you can go from there. So let's hop into the tool, and we're going to go straight to the report widget, and we're going to drop down here into the custom reports. And it should look relatively simple or benign at first. It's just really several buttons here, 3 of which are very straightforward, and a text area, which you actually sort of can hardly see. If I were to scale this correctly, the text area really only comes to here. And you can go ahead and type in that and do whatever you want. And if you want to access the normal text editing controls, you just click on text editing. And you got a full menu here of options. And so let's make this word bold. And let's do this as underlined. And these controls are really all very simple. They're not dissimilar from what you're probably used to with any sort of web text editor. You have the ability to print to PDF, and let's open this up. And you have the ability to just print by clicking this. And it all works. It's all straightforward and it's all simple. Stuff starts to get a little bit more complex when we go to the data entry section, or I should say, in all honesty, a lot more complex. So let's go here. When you're in this section, you have 7 main controls. And in one way or another, these all basically work together to allow you to build a report template that other users can utilize to generate reports. At this point in the game, we are not generating a report in and of itself. We're creating that template that other users can use. So not everybody needs the skill sets associated with this tool to be able to benefit from the custom report. So let's start with the grid loop, and let me show you what this offers. We're going to construct a table. And the goal here of this control is to enable you to get data from your case into this report in a table format. So some way where you're talking about the objects in your case and some data about them. So let's grab a couple of columns here. And the first one, we're going to be a header, and we're just going to call it grid loop. And then the next column, let's do object ID. Well, let's not do object ID. Let's do object name. It's probably more likely to be relevant. And then let's do object file path. And then let's do extension. Right there. So, and then we'll give those columns names so people know what we're describing here. File, path, ext, and one more, because we want our users to be able to add comments to these. So let's go ahead and give them a text field. And we'll call that comment. And you can see, let me click here for a second. You can also add dates, you can add number, radio, checkboxes, all sorts of things to this report if you want. Okay, and now we can assign widths to these values. File names aren't usually that crazy long. We'll do 100. Paths can be quite long. Let's do 200. Extensions are even smaller. We'll do 50. And the comment will do the remainder of the space, which I believe you have about 600 you can work with. So we'll do 250. That will, if you go too large, it will go beyond the print area, and it won't be very useful. So let's go ahead and insert this. And that looks very unimpressive, if you ask me. There are sort of two controls here, edit or delete. Let's go ahead and edit. So you can alter this if you're not happy with anything you've done, or you can just remove it completely by pressing delete. But I mean, this looks like nothing. So that's when we get into this concept of we're not creating a report per se, we're creating a template. The users of this report aren't going to need to understand how to create a grid report. They're just going to utilize it. So to enable them to utilize it, let's go to Save Options. And let's save this template. And we'll call it Grid Loop. And we'll just save that. And now let's simulate you're a user who's come in and you want to utilize it. So you're a user that's come in and you've got nothing. Nothing's here. This is what your thing looks like. You go here to Demo Case. You load your case. And then you come in to your Save Options and you say, hey, I want to use that grid loop report that's been generated for me. And you load it. Now you see this text we entered before. As well as a select button instead of the edit and delete options we had before. Let's go click select. It offers me I can use the checked items I have in the grid. I can use labels, which is what we'll do now. And I can select many labels. Or I can use issues. And let's go ahead and update the table. And you see now it becomes a little bit more relevant. You can see that all the objects we had in that label, the metadata we selected about them has been included in this report. So here's the file, here's the path, here's the extension, and here's the comment. But we're still left with this a little bit of annoying select. And what the user needs to be trained to do is to go into data entry at that point and clean the report. And so they click Clean Report, and it removes that. And then they can come in here and enter their comments, whatever they are. And then they can ultimately come here and print. Back to here, and we can print. And you can see that's what the report looks like. And you know, they can go print it and go on their merry way, or they can print it to PDF, doesn't matter. Now that you get the basic idea, let's go explain the different types of components there are. That was a grid loop component. You also have a case component that allows you to add case data to your report. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's select all and delete that. And let's add a few lines to our report here. And we're going to go back into our case and we're going to add name. This is the name of the case. And then let's add the investigator's name. And let's pull that over here. And obviously you'd have to work on formatting. I'm not going to spend a lot of time worrying about that kind of stuff. And let's do evidence. Let's do an evidence loop report as well. You can select custom columns to the extent you have them. We've got phone as an option here. So we're going to go ahead and just use that. You don't have to utilize any if you don't want. And let's just create a few columns again, and we'll do evidence. And we're going to add the evidence name as one column, and we'll add our custom data, the model number of the phone, and then the phone number. And let's label those. Evidence, model, phone. All right, we can give them widths again if we want. The name, let's give 150. The model 150. We'll just give them all 150. That's fine. None of these are particularly large, so that should be fine. Let's go ahead and insert that. And again, we end up with the same kind of dynamic we did before. Nothing particularly impressive. But if we go here to save, and we'll call this grid loop 2, just because I don't want to spend time typing in another name. And we come here now and we go to grid loop 2. And again, let's pretend we're a user who's come in and the screen is completely empty and they want to load this report. They just click here and they load it up. And they again do the same select thing we've done before where they click select. And it gives them the different evidence options, pieces of evidence they can select, pieces of evidence in the case. We're going to do all of them. Let's go ahead and update the table. And now let's come here to data entry, and they need to be taught this. They click here to clean the report, to remove that stuff. And then they want to fill these populated fields. Remember, we had the investigator's name here, the case name here and the investigator here. And we could have chosen any number of those different fields. We just click here, and they populate those fields for us. And now we can come at this point, we may be happy with the report as the user, and we come and click print, and voila, there is the report. Now, obviously, like I said in the beginning, there's some formatting that needs to go on. We would need to make sure all the elements line up the way we want them, but you can do that. It's not particularly difficult. But nonetheless, you can create a report that is exactly what you want for your specific needs. There are all sorts of elements. We did the evidence element, the case elements, the grid elements. You can also insert HTML elements. You can also include widget elements. Let me show you that. That's pretty cool. So let's come and log into a case. We need to be in a case for this one to work. And let's just go get the timeline. This is a pretty straightforward one. And we've got our nice little timeline here. And now we can go to, there's a button here that will say export or send to reports or some send to report. There we go. So let's get the cursor where we want it. Anywhere is fine. I guess we really don't care. It's just going to overlap stuff, but that doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and send it to the report. And it built the image and it sent it to the report. Now you can notice, okay, hold on, Tim, this is way too big for this report. And you're absolutely right about that. You can do different, you can size it however you want. We didn't spend any time sizing it, but let's kill this and show you how you can do that a little bit more intelligently. Let's come here and let's utilize this button. And we've got the timeline here, and we want to do the case one. That's this one. Or excuse me, the grid one. And we click grid. Oh, shoot, I just did the same silly thing I had just done. I really apologize about that. Oh, now I'm deleting everything. Let's see if I can do this a little bit more intelligently this time. Let's get this image selected. And let's delete it. All right, we'll open back up the timeline. This time I will get it correct. Right here. Here's where we fix the problem I keep having, which is we want a reasonable width. We only have 600 to deal with, as I said before. Let's make it 400, and let's make the height, I don't know, 200. But you can figure out what works for you. Relative to your report and what you're trying to achieve. And now let's go ahead and insert it. And there you go. That's sized to those specific dimensions we gave. And we can move this around if we want to. We can move all these different elements around. It's sort of hard to grab onto them at sometimes. But you aim for this top edge and you can move them. Anyway, you can do that with the different visualizations I showed, and we'll be adding more as time goes on, the different charts, different timelines, and the other 3 other widgets. But that's the custom reports. You can go nuts with that and build up a report that really meets your user's very specific needs. But you can tell this is not for the faint of heart. It is not designed to be super simple. It's designed to be super flexible and super powerful. And so if you're not up for banging your head against the wall as you try to get the formatting right or whatever, uh, then please steer clear of this thing. One last thing, let me show you. It just popped into my head, but it's worth knowing. You can actually see the raw HTML of this thing. So if you know HTML coding, you can go ahead and click on it, and it will start to tell you exactly what elements are in your report, and then you can manipulate it like you would HTML. Now, I know this is probably totally overwhelming for most people, but for some that know HTML, this is going to be really powerful because you can go into your HTML editor, build yourself a report, and then literally dump it in here, and then just update, and it will make the changes to the report. So anyway, that's the custom report widget. Again, steer clear if you're not up for an adventure, but if you're up for an adventure, it's really powerful and worth exploring. Thank you very much, and I hope that's helpful.